We check in now with Hugh Hewitt, NBC News and MSNBC political analyst and host of the Hugh Hewitt Show. Hugh, it's been a while since we were together. Cleveland, I think, was the last time. We were sweating it out there on the stage at the RNC. Yeah. But let me talk to you about where you stand right now. Are you still voting for Trump?
Oh, yes, I am. Of course I am. And I'm not one of these people who are worried either. I am old enough to remember that George Herbert Walker Bush was 17 points behind Michael Dukakis in July, that Ronald Reagan was at 39%, exactly where Donald Trump is now in August, and that events are in the saddle in September and October. And I look at the event of this morning, the stabbing in Russell Square in London, not yet known to be terrorism, might be mental instability, but the world's on edge, Thomas. And so I think events are going to decide this election. I would like to see.
So Hugh, they're saying they've ruled out terror with London, but when you talk about the context of Reagan or Bush, this is not a campaign season or a political nominee that we've ever seen before, like you would give an example of Bush or Reagan. So do you think it's fair to characterize it in those contrasts?
Oh, absolutely. I was around for Reagan. By the way, they have ruled out terror, but it's a Norwegian Somali, so the issue is migration in the London context. But back to the question of Reagan. Reagan was roundly and wildly criticized throughout the summer of 1980. It was not until the debates that he proved himself, that they tried to use the nuclear button stuff on him as well. Look, it hasn't been a good 2 weeks. It's been the roughest 2 weeks I've ever seen a presidential candidate go through. I'm just saying that I had, for example, Dorothy Woods on my radio show this morning. She is the gold star spouse of Ty Woods, who was left by Hillary Clinton in the administration to die on a roof in Benghazi. And she said that Hillary Clinton is fundamentally unqualified to be commander-in-chief. If they take that line, if they absorb that attack and they stay on the Supreme Court on Hillary not being believable, her record in Egypt, in Libya, in Syria, in Iraq, the server, the fact she's compromised by the Russians, if they stay focused on Hillary, Donald Trump can easily make this a race again, even though he's 11 points down in Pennsylvania, double digits down in Michigan. It's not a good situation to be in. You would like it to be much closer. Nevertheless, I do believe that all of the declarations that it's over.
In respect to Ty Woods and the sacrifice he made for this country and what they tried to do in Benghazi, I imagine that Dorothy understands that it's not Secretary of State Clinton at that time that would deploy military assets, correct?
Actually, she doesn't understand that. She claims that Hillary Clinton was at her desk and was part of the problem that night. She realizes that there was a conference call in which Secretary Clinton and the Pentagon were involved, and that while the stand-down order and the uniform changing is in the Pentagon chain of command, I do think you've got to realize that she very much is part of the administration that covered up and kept in complete secrecy the fiasco that was the Benghazi response. So yes, Dorothy Woods said, and the transcript and the audio available at my website, people can listen to it, she's fundamentally unqualified to be commander-in-chief. I came to that conclusion because of her server, because she lied about her server. She lied just on Sunday past about Director Comey exonerating her. So I think Trump's challenge is to stay focused on this kind of a conversation, because Hillary and Donald both have an extraordinary fragility with voters. He broke that fragility this week. He can repair it, but he broke it. The one who breaks it last, the one who demonstrates themselves to be least trustworthy last in this cycle, is going to lose this election. And that's where I think Paul Ryan, who is the real leader of the Republican Party, his remarks you aired earlier are the ones I think most Republicans have got to pay attention to. We want him to stay focused on the messages of security for the country, economic growth, which is not here, and especially the Supreme Court, which will flip into a disastrous hard-left majority if Hillary makes one appointment. Those are the messages that win.
Hugh Hewitt. Hugh, nice to see you, sir. Thanks for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Thomas.